Yeah, when finding who the champion is, if you look to the left, you don't see a leader. You look to the right, you don't see a leader. There's a strong chance you look in the mirror, you're going to find that champion. What is a champion? That bold person who gets you from your current state to your future state. Let's break that down. Let's go. Hey, Carl, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Shawn, what's going on? How you been?
Good, good, man.
Good, good,
Um,
good.
cool. So for today, I want to start talk about what is a champion. There's this term that comes around that companies are looking for this person that ultimately has a big role in the success of a digital transformation or helping the company move from one state to another.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Matter of fact, that came from one of our commenters on our earlier podcast. We did one where we talked about leading digital transformation, and it takes and requires a champion to lead that. And the question was, hey, well, then what is a champion? What's some examples of a champion? What are some common traits? So I took it upon myself to get some answers from some people that I've worked with in the past, some mentors, some colleagues, and ask them, hey, what are their thoughts of what are traits and champions? I called them 5 C's. So just for easy for me to remember, easy for maybe our clients and easy for our community to remember, traits that are common for champions that lead digital transformation.
In places I've had to be the champion, I've worked with some really inspiring champions. So yeah, let's go through them and break that down.
First C is to be committed, committed to transformation. Now, it goes without saying that at the beginning of any transformation, there's excitement, there's energy, and there's individuals that are pumped and ready to lead that change. But like if any project, especially if it's a large transformation, you go through these peaks and valleys. And as you go through periods where it is not as sexy as it once were or not as exciting, you still have to be committed. And you also have to be committed for an outcome that you do not yet know if it's going to be all positive, it's going to be all rosy. I mean, you have the strategy, you have the ideal, this is the direction we want to go to. But in some instances, you see those peaks and valleys and you not necessarily see the outcome of that. And even during that, you still need to be committed. So I find that to be one of the C's, one of the traits that champions usually have is the commitment to transformation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I see that commitment is a source of inspiration. And that inspiration comes from a vision, a kind of an unbreakable vision that you have towards a person. And it's just very apparent and visible that they know where they're going. They have a future state in mind. And it's sometimes polarizing, sometimes it's a brave and bold vision that can be polarizing. I think of Elon Musk 10 plus years ago talking about the transformation of electronic vehicles. Most people said it's going to be too expensive, the infrastructure is not there. There was a plethora of reasons why it couldn't happen, but his vision has been and continues to be unbreakable and just way into the future.
So my second C is collaborative. So able to have a collaborative approach and be able to work with multiple individuals that could be involved throughout the digital transformation change. Now, it's obvious they work with the people that are going to be responsible, accountable to either evoke the change, operate that change, see that change through. But I would argue that you also need to have plenty of collaboration with individuals that are maybe the further down the line. They may not be directly impacted, but they should be informed. They should be consulted and be advised that this type of change is occurring. We're hoping we have your support, and this is what it could possibly mean to you, even though you're not directly impacted. Here is how it could impact you in other ways. Now, I've seen in the past where the wrong individuals were included, and the right individuals that should have been part of the conversations were excluded, and it leads to unforeseen results. As you can imagine, it causes a lot of rework and could detriment the outcome, slow down the outcome and detriment the outcome of the transformation. So collaboration with all involved is quite critical.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's one thing to speak of the change or the future, but by collaboration, I see it as being visible, being in there in the trenches, solving the problems, testing outcomes, and being able to admit when we have to revise what the future looks like, or how, in fact, we get there. And that only
Yeah.
comes from collaboration, rolling up our sleeves and being part of the transformation itself. One example that really inspired me, just social media. Mark Zuckerberg,
Mm.
one talented developer, and he's definitely learned how to be on the front lines as both a developer and a leader to the world, really. And making adjustments and changes on how, be it the wall or various aspects or functions within Facebook, have emerged over the year. And it's really been the most visible platform of social media, this vision of social media. And it's all because
Mm.
he collaborated with people, built a team, and has been responsive over this long period of time to the needs of the people, privacy concerns, legislative concerns, politics, people, and overall business demands. So, yeah, that collaborative approach is really invaluable to strengthen yourself as a champion.
Yeah, well said, well said. Ironically, the next C is something that you just mentioned. So I'm calling it concerned, right? So you need to be concerned with your colleagues and the stakeholders. So going through a change, a transformation change, is not always easy. So you heard me mention earlier, there's always excitement at the beginning and that spark and there's that energy. But in some cases, there's not. So you need to be empathetic of the individuals that are going through the change, that they don't quickly buy in, right? So you have your the adopters that are on board and they can help lead change, but that that maybe is 10 to 25%. There's this large amount of close to 50% of people where they go through this cycle of change, they're not yet fully committed or on board. They may need more discussions and more support on why the change is necessary, why it's required, or they want to see early wins. They want to see, hey, we've seen some positive impacts, so now I'm on board. But you need to be sympathetic as well as I would say patient with some individuals that have not um, have not fully committed or bought onto this change just yet. It does take time. And then I would even also add, for those that have committed, they're fully on board to change, you still need to be concerned on their well-being. I just recently read an article, and I'll put it in the comments, about an organization that did a survey with several companies, and they're starting to see the fatigue and the stress levels getting really high with their most prominent resources, prominent workers,
Mm.
because they're on board for this transformation, but it's accelerated. I'm using the quotes, accelerated transformation, because they have to, because of obvious reasons. We're in this pandemic. Workers are going to get burned out. So you need to be concerned and be aware that making this change does take a toll. And so a good champion has that trait where they can recognize if there needs to be a common break, and sometimes there need to be, as how well are they managing this change throughout the digital transformation.
Yeah, no, it brings up a really good point. And we used to have a saying with my buddies. We say, check your six, and
Yeah.
check behind you, or check your rear view mirror. And being empathetic, concerned about the people, the stakeholders, leads to a deep understanding of the blind spots or the risks that might occur, especially if your transformation, if you're championing of a cause that might take 3 to 4 years. Change fatigue is real, where people might lose faith over a while, or they themselves have to sacrifice so much for a vision that's going to take another couple of years to materialize. Um, or even from earlier, I was mentioning, you know, legislative changes or risk of privacy concerns. These are really important blind spots and risks to keep in mind, because having that empathy towards the stakeholders around and how they are impacted will ultimately solidify the future that you as a champion are bringing your organization or team, and being holistic of the things that may not have been considered when first envisioning the future.
Mm, well said. Well said. All right. Okay. So number five. Wait, am I number five or number four? I think I'm on number four. Four C's on the fourth C. Okay. Number four is consistent at communicating, right? Consistent communication. There is nothing that would destroy a project faster than the lack of communication, the change in frequency of communication. You may be looked upon as someone that's not committed as you once were because you're not communicating about status updates or changes. It's important that you are really good at bottom up communication. So giving feedback to leaders from the users, from customers that are experiencing this transformation. You have to get really good at giving good and positive and negative news about the transformation and be honest about that. Then of course, top down, not every time a leadership can be part of the conversation, communication that you're having with the team if you're leading transformation. So it's important that you also give from leadership any decisions that has to be made. And sometimes you can be creative with that type of communication. So I, in the past, have used vision boards. I was working with a team that for a very long transfer, it's about a 3-year transformation change. And at the beginning, there was excitement. Like I keep referring to this, there's always excitement at the beginning. And so we did this vision board, and it was basically different phrases and words that we want to see. And at first, every time I turned on my projector, the screen, to share that and let's give us our status update, there was some, oh, great, my quote's there. So I feel a part of this change. But as time goes on, I have to consistently use that same visual board. And so I would display it at any time we're having our group meetings, our status meetings. And at first, there was a lot of positivity in showing that because you got to see your words as part of the solution. But for the 20th time to 30th time you're displaying that, there was groans, there was, oh gosh, not this visual board again. But it's good to continue doing that. If I should take that away, and if I had these infrequent meetings, I would be perceived as not fully on board. I'm not the champion. I'm no longer leading this project with the same ferocity as I did at the beginning. So the key thing is to communicate often, and communicate well, and maybe be creative with that. And yes, you will get yes, Carl, you've already said this 3 times, but communicate. Credible, effective.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's probably the most powerful vehicle in the success over the long term that a champion has. I find it like has a snowballing effect, and it allows the people that are following in the change to be armed, almost like soldiers. So let me explain what I mean by that. When you're celebrating a quick win or a success, part of a long journey, you're equipping the people not only with their admiration for you as the champion, but also things that are meaningful to them that they can go and further justify to people. Why am I supporting a cause where there's been no example? Well, it will enable us to save money. It'll enable us to work from home. We've been able to do X. The more you can communicate and give people tidbits of information that are meaningful to their day-to-day, it further cements their energy towards the future, right? Because in the beginning, it's all about the champion, we're following a direction. But as time goes on, just celebrating the wins, celebrating all of our learnings, and giving people that ammunition, they can justify it to themselves, but then also they can justify it to other, which creates that snowball, strengthening why they're in the position or going the direction they're going in as followers of that direction.
Awesome. All right, so we're at number 5, and this one is no doubt another C, but it wasn't as easy to come up with the title. So I use continuously improve, right? Well, no surprise there, but it's basically leading by example. So a common trait of a champion is that you're doing that change yourself. You're also doing it, not just talking about it, right? So I've said in the past that everyone agrees change is good, right? Change is great, but you go first. So this is the reason why a champion is that they're not afraid to go first. They're actually leading that change, and whatever that might be. In some instances, it's to be a little bit more innovative than maybe the users. And matter of fact, I reached out to my colleague to give me what her definition of a champion, and she gave me a few components. I'm going to read out a quote from her. Her name is Cassandra, a colleague I worked with in the past. And she says, a champion to lead change is an open-minded leader who demonstrates genuine curiosity about process and what is possible. They embrace looking outside the box and encouraging diversity of thought. They empower people to make the unencumbered necessary changes that will improve the process, products, and service. They advocate for and expect an improving process that is focused primarily on meeting the customer's needs and wants. They are not afraid to ask that, encouraging deeper thinking about existing problems, and they invest in teaching people how to think differently about their problems. It's very well said. A lot of those components in there is a true example of a champion that's leading by example. They're not afraid to ask the question, and when they hear the response, which it's always been done that way, they're able to circumvent that and think of a solution that's going to excel the transformational change. They're also looking for other champions, right? You and I know we've been part of many sessions where our goal is to find other champions that have these traits, these 5 C's that we're mentioning, and so that when there's a transition from a project mode to operation mode, there's individuals that can take this on. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think first kudos to Cassandra. Yeah, she explained it just eloquently. It makes a lot of sense. As I hear that and I think about continuously improving, the desire to continuously improve for me comes from that spot of self-reflection and almost a humility to critically look at the way we're doing what we're doing, and the motivation to do better the next day and do better, even in spite of little successes. And eventually those just critically evaluating the way we do what we do, and the humbleness to take in feedback from others and evaluate, it just creates a positive momentum where continuous improvement becomes a moving engine as part of the change. I look at Kobe Bryant, for example. He was already a champion with Shaq, and there was a period of time where it's like, well, Shaq was the man, and Kobe was the side player, but he was focused on building his own legacy in addition to what he's already accomplished, and becoming his own champion and maintaining that vision and fighting hard, continuously improving. And eventually he was able to build and have a team centered around his skill set and build another championship level team without Shaq. So that continuous improvement, that becoming a leader, that self-reflection and humility helped round out his game, and rounds out a lot of people's game, and really fills in what continuous improvement and the power of it has over driving that future. So
I agree. Black Mamba. I agree, man.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, so those are the 5 C's. What's your thoughts? If you have any other traits that you think are common part of a champion that leads digital transformation, please leave some comments below. Would love to read them. I mean, I know there's a variety of different examples, but those are the ones that are more meaningful to us. Please let us know if there's any other ones that you think we should be including.
All right. Coolio.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon, eh?
All right. Take care.
All right, man.
Peace.
Peace.